Hello, coders, again. I hope you've all had a good evening. I was up very, very late last night working on my packed publishing course that I'm doing, the Python clean coding course. I was working on the quizzes. So these are questions that you ask people about, during the course and so forth, just to check their understanding. It came up to something like 65 questions. So I was up very late doing all of those, 65 questions about clean coding in Python. So today's stream, so I'm a little bit tired, so I do apologize. But today's stream, before my real paid work, what I'm going to do is go through again where we left off last night and do a little bit more testing. So where we left last night was these acceptance tests. We had 4 tests and 2 of them were failing. And I'm not overly happy with this method. There's far too much responsibility going on. There's undefinedness and all that jazz. Basically, I was writing this code. It was just, I basically throwing up on the page, really, like a drunk coder, a drunk programmer with the light turned off, bashing the keyboard with his elbow. That was basically what I was doing last night. So what I would like to do is sort of parcel these off into smaller little things. There's too many responsibilities going on. We've got 2 failures here. These are 2 acceptance test failures. And I'm not entirely sure why they're failing. One of them was because we're expecting a 404, but we actually got a 200 OK. So there's a fundamental issue in the tests. I've got deprecation warnings. And before I start, I just want to see if I can remove those. So I just want to do run help. I think that's right, help. And there should be a thing, no fast, no fail, skip group, no exit, no coverage, no, not doing coverage, debug, no silent, no. There must be something in here, a flag that removes deprecated, like no warn or something. Override, report, coverage, group. No rebuild, no seed. What's quiet? Do not output any messages. No. Well, unless they define deprecation messages as messages. I guess we could try that. So let's do a run -q. What happens? No, that's not what I wanted. Ah, dear. Okay, well, okay, let's put a pin on that then. I'm sure there is something I could do to sweet names. Whoops, silent. Only outputs sweet names and final results. I think that might be too silent. I'm looking for a way of just show output in compact mode, of removing the deprecated warnings. I'll look that up later on. That's no biggie. Okay, you can get lost in those kind of rabbit holes. So, okay, so what I would like to do in the few minutes I have this morning is I would like to write some tests that check the router here that we're on. I'm just trying to find, here we go. Okay, so we have these acceptance tests, and we have no unit tests, so we're going to build some unit tests. Let's do that now. We're going to be testing the router. We have the router here. We're passing in, this is the processor. Okay, so first of all, let's test that out. So let's go to the router. The router. Okay, so the first thing the processor does is one of the things it does is it gets the roots. So we need to make sure that actually returns an array and stuff. I think what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to do this in more of a TDD kind of manner. Try to at least. Because I'm really not happy about this at all. the way I've named things, the processes and stuff. They're doing far too many things, responsibilities. So let's just, I tell you what, let's just make another class. We're going to bung it in here, and we're going to call this are we processor? Yeah, we're going to call this mapper because this maps the mapper. Okay, so we're just going to go mapper. I mean, it doesn't actually matter straight away. I just wanted some sort of separation between the processor and the thing. I want the processor to be something I can look at as reference, and the mapper is something that I'm going to be building through this. So let's remove the make function. Again, that's something I need to test. There we go. Okay, so we just have this. And we're also going to test the router as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is have a look at my structure. So it's helper router. Okay, so let's do a reverse search and see if we've got G. No, we don't. Okay, so it's a code exception. I think it's G for generate, and it's a test. Okay, so I'm doing this by memory now. So G for generate, T then test. So I'm generating a test, and it's a unit, and the path I want to put it in is in helper, or the namespace is helper, and it is root, and we're going to test the router. Hit that. Yes, it was created. And it was created in unit helper router test. So what I like doing when I write my tests is I like to mimic, that should go in there, yeah. I like to mimic the folder structure of the SRC folder structure, because it just, it makes it a little bit more one-to-one. So you see you've got SRC, and then you've got helper, and then you've got root, and then you've got router. Right, so now in here you've got unit test, helper, root, router test. And if I open that up, we should have a blank test like so. Now, I'm not a massive fan of using fully qualified namespaces, so I'm just going to tidy this up a little bit. And I'm just going to put that in there. We don't need that, and we don't need that. Okay, cool. Let me just bring that down to make a little bit more room. Okay, so then we've got test some feature. The first thing we're going to test is, of course, the getRoots function. Now, this isn't like I said before I wanted to do this in a TDD approach. This isn't a TDD approach because this already exists. But when we get to the mapper, I think it hopefully will be. But the first thing the mapper needs is it needs to know that we have a series of roots, an array of roots that we want to loop through. So that must mean, therefore, that when we start with absolutely nothing, we must have a blank array. In my opinion, there must be a blank array to begin with. Because if, for example, we were to run this application and we didn't have any roots, and I'll show you where the roots live, which are up in here. So if this was completely empty, and you can imagine this being configured somewhere in say, YAML files or something like, or annotations, and it generates an array of stuff. If we didn't have any of that configuration up front, then we would like to still keep this application running just without any roots. So that's the first fundamental check I want to do. Does this get roots? It says it returns an array, but is it actually an array? So what we're doing is scrolling this way. So it's test some feature. So the test needs to be the prefix. So this is test is roots an array, right? Because it's just saying exactly what we're checking. So we do roots is equal to new, and then what was it? Was it router? So okay, router I should say is equal to new root. Okay, so we've instantiated a new router, and we want to do this assertate equal array, or is array. There we are. Is array. So then we do this. Oh, sorry, router. Beg your pardon. Get roots. Okay, so that should be correct. Hopefully. Okay, so let's save that and let's just quickly run this. Again, like I showed you last night, you can put in groups. So I'm going to do at group, and we're going to set this to be a router. And I'm going to have another group in here because I'm going to have more than one test in this. We're going to call this router and then roots array. Okay, so I should therefore be able to run this. So let's do up run unit -g, all those things. Okay, so what's going on here? Is roots an array? And we have this helper router not found. Okay, why is that? Okay, so this is because the namespace is not right. So let's do a use. Actually, hang on a minute. Router. Is that the namespace? Am I using this? I'm sharing the same namespace. That's not going to work, is it? That's not going to work. Right, how do I deal with that? Well, one thing I could do is change the namespace, or the base bit of the namespace of the tests and the router. I guess that's what I should do. Change the namespace. But with my autoloader, which again I haven't fully tested yet, we are dealing with that, which is checking putting the directories as the namespace parts. So the easiest thing I think I can do to solve this problem is to change the namespace of the tests rather than. So let me just grab this and copy that. I'm going to delete this mess. Delete. And what we're going to do is we're going to generate this again, but this time we're going to put in that. So router. Okay, so it doesn't necessarily mimic the this structure, but because I'm not using the composer autoloader, come on index, it's not it's not going to worry too much. I can change that later. So let's just paste that back in. Yep. Scroll to the top. Okay, so we've got helper, root, and router. So that is the one we want to use. The namespace currently is root, so that's totally different, which is good. Just for speed today, I'm just not going to bother with these warnings here. So let's just run this. And what else is this problem? Is there a root? Still can't find that class. Why can't it find that class? Helper, root, router. I wonder if it's because we haven't included the autoloader. That's probably why, isn't it? Okay, that's a bit of a problem. I think perhaps I'm going to need to use the composer's autoloader rather than my own. I reckon that's probably what's going on here. That's a shame, isn't it? Yeah, okay. Maybe I need to do that first. Maybe that needs to happen. Okay, okay. Okay, I don't think I'm going to be able to achieve this by the time this stream finishes. So instead, let me think, what else can I do? If I can't instantiate a class within here, I'm going to have to fiddle with that autoloader. What else can I do? What else can I achieve today? Let's just remove that unit test. Actually, let's think about this. Let's think about this. Let's go back to the mapper. We also have this parsed URL thing going on here. So I need to check whether that actually has something and whether that is a string. So that's one thing I need to do. Yeah. Well, that's unfortunate because, you know, I thought that I would be able to run these classes. I should have checked before the stream. So I do apologize. These aren't PSR jobbies. These are just my hacked up autoloader malarkey, which is a shame. I think if I was using the composer autoloader and using the composer.json, it would be far, far simpler. So if preg match, all these things, then we get the controller, and then we instantiate a new controller name. So I don't like this. Okay, what I'm going to do, I think, is I'm going to hack this up into different responsibilities, and then I can work it from there. So the first responsibility is this one here. So I'm just going to put some comments in. So this here, so we get path from current URI. So that's responsibility number one. So we need to somehow check that, right? The next responsibility is to get, or loop over the roots, and then check that there is, check that there is a root. So check instance of root. Okay, so that's number two. Number three, and actually that's doing another responsibility, that is throwing an exception. Okay, number four is handling the pattern. So we have number four, handle pattern. Number five is construct. Construct controller. And then number six is getting method. And then 7 is returning. So we're doing a fair amount of stuff in this class, in this thing. It's crazy. And one of the points that I made in my Python clean coding course is that when you're writing functions, a function should only have one single responsibility. And here we have what, 6, 7, and if I had more time, I would be able to delve in and find more. So in terms of refactoring, what I would like to achieve, and I've got to shoot for work soon, so I won't be able to do it in this stream. I might come on later on, and once I get the class path sorted out and all of that stuff for the autoloader, because I really want to write some tests to back these up. But where my head is at the moment is I would like to write a test for each one of these things. And I've gone and messed this up because what I need to do is there's another responsibility that I've just seen, and that is to get the roots array, or get array of roots, get array of roots. All right. So that's 2, that's 3, that's 4, that's 5, that's 6, that's 7. So we've got 8 now. And you might be looking at this and going, well, it's not a lot of code. It is a mess. These are undefined things. So it will fail eventually at some point. But it is doing its job, because there are a couple of acceptance tests that are actually running. And you might be thinking, surely this get array roots isn't actually a responsibility. But it is, because we have to check whether or not this is an array. This is an array. Get roots doesn't mean that it is array. It just means that there are something that is called roots. That could even be returning a class. So I need to somehow check that, and I need to somehow make sure that the path as well is a string. I need to make sure that exists, that index that exists. So really, that's another thing going on there. Within this get path from current URI. So we're parsing the URI. Does that return an error? I don't know. It returns mixed. So that returns mixed. So I need to ensure that actually does return a path. So, there's going to be something that I need to validate all of these things. So you can see the amount of tests that just this piece of logic requires. So we have this get roots, then we're checking the instance of that to make sure that is an actual root. I did that really because PHP Storm doesn't know what root is, because it's just returning an array. So we need to know that within that array we have a root, and then we need to throw an exception. Now I think personally this is actually multiple responsibilities going on here, because we're doing this check. So I would say that this needs to be in a method called isValid. So isValid, passing in the root, right, which could be mixed, perhaps, or something, and then it checks for, and then it returns a Boolean, perhaps, of whether that is an actual root, and then we pass that to perhaps a handler, which then throws the exception. So I think throwing exceptions and doing validation work are two separate things here. You've got the checking, and then you've got the handling of that check. So, and in Python, in my Python clean coding course, I did a whole section on decorators. So this is where you decorate a method with another method, and I was using SQL. I can't show it to you, unfortunately, because it's PAX. But essentially, there was a series of MySQL calls, and in those calls, they were also doing logging and checking and making sure that there was a connection. So it's doing an awful lot of responsibilities. So I then used a decorator to then decorate all of those things, and I made it so that that MySQL call was only a single line of code. So this project, this Python clean coding course that I keep talking about, this is actually going out. It's being reviewed, it's being processed, it's with their editors, so it should be out. It should be out shortly, but I don't know when. I'll certainly let you guys know when it is. Do check the How to Code Well YouTube channel, because I will definitely be putting out some notifications on that I've also got an intro for it as well, so I'll be changing my YouTube trailer to be that intro when that's there. Okay, so let's continue down this thought process then, because unfortunately I can't write any of these tests because my autoloader is messed up. So I need to sort that out first. I need to use the composer autoloader, and I won't be doing that in this stream because I don't have time. So I just want to go through the process of how I would refactor this in my head. So we go through, we're on number 3 here. We're checking the instance of the root. So this is checking that that is an actual root, because this is just returning an array of stuff, and you need to make sure that the stuff that you've returned is correct. If it's not, we need to handle that, but the checking and the handling, in my opinion, are different. It's like, when you've got like a symphony form in the controller, and you have handle request. Well, you're handling the request that then does the checks. The validation of the form and the handling of that form are two very separate things. Okay, and then we have handle pattern. So I would like to put that in its own method, just to return this. All right, because I think that it needs to be done. So that's just going to be a very small method just to return that string. Then it does preg match. I'm not actually using matches at all, and I probably should do. So within this for each loop, this would be calling some sort of class or something to then build that pattern. So it would probably be called something like create pattern or make pattern or something like that. Which means that now I've created a method called make pattern or create pattern. I should change that variable to be called expression, because it is a regular expression. And on preg match, we're requiring, I don't know if you can see, with PHP Storm, it's highlighted that is a pattern. The first thing is a pattern. So I would like to have that match the method name that actually makes that pattern and returns the pattern. So we pass in an expression and we return a pattern. They're pretty much the same thing, but in my head, that makes more sense. And when you're writing clean code, it's all about trying to make the code more readable. And I don't think this is readable. And this certainly isn't. This is a bit of a mess here. So construct controller. What we're doing here is we're trying to get the controller. And again, PHP Storm doesn't even know because it can't find that. So there needs to be some sort of checking going on here. So I need probably a factory. I might use like eventually I might use some sort of factory that actually builds the controllers based on the past root, and then from that factory I can then throw some exceptions perhaps if the factory can't make that. So this, I would imagine this is going to go into some sort of factory make call, and then we break out of it. We break because we're in this this crazy loop here. So we get the controller from this. So we need to somehow check that we do have a controller. Because rightfully so down here, this is all undefined, which is a massive code smell, a massive code smell. And as I said, as at the start of this stream, I basically just threw this up on the page last night. So after this loop has done its thing, and I would like to hope that this is all gets condensed down into smaller little methods that are easy to test. Once it's done its thing, at the end of it, we need to have some sort of check to ensure that we do have a controller. And it's at this point we should be throwing some sort of 404 if the controller can't be found. Also, what we need to do is we need to get the method from the root. So perhaps we need, in the factory, we need to return the whole thing, the whole shebang. And check that. maybe, perhaps. I don't know. I haven't really got to that far yet in my thinking, but we need to have some level of checking. Now, this is doing a very basic routing process, and I haven't even considered yet that there might be issues with methods, or methods used like get and post. And also, I was thinking this morning that you run the same request, but through different methods. So you could run the same URL, but in a post and a get. So I need to make sure that if I scroll up here, in routing, at the moment we have just a string. Okay, so that needs to be an array where we can. Actually, that's not even the right word, is it? Method. Yeah, maybe that needs to be called action, because what I'm talking about here is the actual get and post of the request. So we'll have something like I don't know. Let's change the request. Let's do that request method or something. I mean, that's terrible, and that would be an array. So I need to as well check that there is a request method that either is get or post or both. So that needs to go in too. So I need to validate this, and these all live in the root itself, so the root class. And this is another issue with classes, because we're setting all these defaults here. So the pattern is a string, controller is a string, method is a string, but having a default root with nothing in there is no good, because that's not actually going to do anything. So I could set these to null, and have this as null or a string. And this is terrible, because this needs to be condensed down. We're just duplicating our work here, so that needs to be done. And I see the handling and the setting of these things as two separate responsibilities as well. So I'm just going to put in a to-do here. To-do. So I'm going to put needs SOC, separation of concerns. Needs SOC, because we have the first concern is to do the check, the second concern is to do the exception, and the third concern is to do the setting. So I'm gonna put that in here. So one is validation, 2 is handling, which is exception, 3 is setting of values or assigning of values. So these are the concerns here. So we are validating, so we're checking whether that is, so that should, in my opinion, return have a method called is pattern valid or something like that. Is valid, pattern is valid, controller is valid, that kind of thing. So these would be just returning Boolean responses, and then we would deal with the exception if they are false. And those exceptions would be done in a separate method based upon the responses of these things. Then here we have the setting of those. So after that's done a check, then we can do a set. The reason being is the good thing about decoupling the checking and the setting and the validation and so forth is that you can use those, reuse those in different things. And it just makes this a little bit more easier to work through. Okay, so that's cool because that's a string. That's fine. We're forcing that to be a string, And this is returning a string, which is fine, but we need to make sure that that actually has something. It's not an empty string, so that needs to go off to some sort of handler. Same with get method, that needs to return a string as well. And then the router here, we have the register of the root. I'm still unsure yet whether or not the root should just be an array, and we use we use static. We use a static variable to set the roots. So this roots would be in a static thing, and we just do array push and push these up. And then we could probably change that to be add rather than register. Register sounds a little bit more sort of like brutal. It's because I was trying to think of it in a pub sub kind of a manner. And then we have this crazy process which does a check here. Again, this needs to be put into a separate method, and we're throwing a 404 at this point, and this is because that we're checking whether that is, if the current URI isn't in the roots. So that's a bit odd. So we do need to work that through. I don't think that should be here. In fact, I don't even think this router class needs to be this heavy, to be honest. I think the mapper needs to be condensed down. This is doing an awful lot of stuff. Yeah, it was a right shame that I couldn't get these tests to work. It was a right shame. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot now. I've got some work that I need to get on with, some paid bits and pieces. But I might be back on later on tonight. And in my lunch break, I'm going to take a look and see if I can get this autoloader to run, because this is not going to get me very far if I can't get this to work. And then what I would like to do, either in that stream or in later streams, is I would like to break these up in the mapper. I'm still going to keep the processor just as something to sort of like review and just see, because I know that there's a couple of acceptance tests that do work with that. But yeah, I think I'm gonna. Well, I need to go because I need to get into a meeting. But I will speak to you guys again soon. Thanks again for watching. If you haven't done so already, please do check out the podcast. I have a podcast every Friday at howtocodewell.fm, where I interview all sorts of fantastic people from the web development world. So if you haven't done so already, please do check that out. And also the How to Code Well YouTube channel, where I actually break these up into smaller tutorials. And I archive the stream there too. So thanks ever so much for watching, guys. Happy coding, and I'll see you again soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.